Enter the darkness. Who are these people?
And then I would talk about Blood Gnome again, but I feel like I've talked about it. This would be the third episode I've talked about it, and that might start saying something about me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay.
Christopher Nolan is the one that murdered movie theaters. Happy birthday, Christopher Nolan. Are you happy now?
Hello, Internet, and welcome to ZombieBananaSpiders. I'm Colin, and with me, as always, is Dr. Heather and Hilary. All right. And today we are going to be maybe dealing with a topic that's a little heavy, so fair warning now. We're going to be doing a little discussion about how the pandemic has affected the theater industry and what is changing, what people want, what predictions do we have for how all of this that's going on is going to affect the film industry and the theater industry. So if that's not your bag, tune in next week or flip to the end of the episode where we do our recommendations and stuff like that. But right now we're going to flip it over to Hilary, who's been a veteran of the theater business for, what did you say, Hilary? Like 17
years. Yeah.
17 years. Damn. So Hilary, take us away. What do you got for us about the theater industry?
Well, I just was interested in starting a conversation with potential listeners and you guys about just your take on what's going on with movie theaters right now. And I thought I'd start by kind of giving context to how horror movies perform in theaters generally, and just like the reasoning behind, for instance, A Quiet Place 2 was supposed to come out in April of 2020. They kept pushing it. Tenet was kind of the flagpole throughout all of this and was going to be the first one to open, and then everything else was supposed to come out after that. So Tenet would push its date, and then A Quiet Place would push its date. And then it got to a point where Tenet has come out. It severely underperformed.
Mm-hmm.
And people aren't coming to see it. So for the most part, everything else has either been pushed to December or next year. And so Quiet Place 2, which could very easily be dropped on streaming and most definitely make its money back plus, is being pushed until next April, or this coming April, I guess, 2021, because the original A Quiet Place, the budget was $17 million, and internationally it made some $341 million. So like they are expecting a huge return on that. And that's why it's worth investing in horror movies, even if it's like the plot is dumb. A lot of people didn't want to touch Alien because the idea is another space movie. Like there was nothing special about it until a director came in with influenced by Geiger, right? That's the name of the artist. Mm-hmm. And it became a huge deal that now inspires like not only the sci-fi genre but the horror genre to this day.
Yeah.
So um, horror movies are worth investing in because the return is so great. But I don't know. What do you guys how do you guys feel about what's going on with theaters? Because honestly, I was having kind of a panic attack the other day because I've been so right about what is going on with movie theaters, and like I never thought that I thought that all these higher ups who were making millions and billions of dollars knew something that I didn't, but it turns out no. So um I'm just curious from like somebody who is not as familiar with behind the scenes of movie theaters what people think is happening with them. Like do people honestly think that it's safe? Do they honestly like cuz the thing the thing is like they're closed like they're going to have to close again. A lot of them are closing again because they're dead because people aren't coming to them. So I don't know. It's just from so much experience behind the scenes. It is frustrating for me um, having to watch what I've said for the past 6 months slowly happen, and like slowly people are starting to figure things out. But a lot of them, a lot of movie theaters, a lot of these guys who own movie theaters are still hoping things are going to go back to normal, and they're not, at least not for a while. And so I don't know. I was just curious what you guys thought.
I know I'm in a weird position because I am very much not in the know, but you are also my sister. So like it was interesting because when you and I think it was when you and Maria were here, Colin, or maybe it was over a call when we were playing Stardew Valley or something. But like you asked what we thought about going to the movies, and I'm like, well, here, let me channel Hilary at you. And so I was like telling you guys everything that you had told me, Hill. So it's sort of like that is my perception. I trust you, and like it's been actually quite a while since I've been to the movies at a movie theater. But I know that we sort of got into a conversation at one point about what it is that people want out of that experience when you can so easily watch movies in your home.
I just kind of I live with another movie theater person, so like we talk about this stuff all the time, and we have the insight, so we don't know exactly where other people are coming from, except that like Jacob gets on Reddit and he's talking to people and they just want things to go back to normal, and they don't care. They just want things to be normal, and they're not they're not normal right now.
Pretty fucking far from normal. Oh man.
And like that's the thing too, is like how could we get things back to normal? You know, it's like people, because I hear it all the time too in different situations, is that I just want things to go back to normal, and one day they'll go back to normal. It's like, well, yeah, but it's not going to be this like magical thing that we're all going to wake up, you know, someday and everything will just be fixed. So it's like, how do we get to a point where
You don't
like what
you don't
gets
go
us
back.
right, and then that's too like what is going back even mean? You know, what is that in people's minds? What is it that they want to go back to, and how do they realize, or can they even realize, that things, say in the movie theater business, have gone too far to go back to the way it was? do people even realize that that's what's happening? It's just they think, yeah, okay, we can't go now because it's not safe, but in a couple of months it will be safe, and then we'll just go and there will be movies like there always were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I might start ranting about Christopher Nolan too, and then everyone will hate our podcast. Christopher Nolan is the one that murdered movie theaters. Happy birthday, Christopher Nolan. Are you happy now? This is so weird. Quiet Place 2 doesn't have its budget on Box Office Mojo, which is like the website for movie theater statistics. Or like movie statistics. And it's done. Like the movie's been done. It should have come out in April. And they pushed it to April next year.
That's
it's
weird
that they don't have the budget for it. But yeah, the first one was 17 million, and it made worldwide $341 million. So, I mean, compared to like Iron Man or whatever, that's nothing. But when you look at how much they spent versus how much they made, that percentage is significant.
Yeah. And I mean, like,
I don't know if anybody else is interested in that stuff, but I find that interesting.
Well, no, that's when people say money talks, like, I think it's good to give them that example because it's absolutely true. Like other review shows and stuff that I watch talk about like the straight to DVD Disney sequels, or even like not even Disney sequels, just the straight to DVD sequels of any animated movie. It's like, they look at the first movie. They're like, did we make back our budget? We did? Okay, great. Let's make a sequel. Like, it seems to be that that's the mentality. It's not, did people like this story? Do we have more of a story to tell? It's that, did we make money on the first one? Yes. Okay, that means we'll make money on any, like, shitty sequel we pull out of our butt. We spend no money on, animation, talking about, animated sequels. We won't spend any money on editing or, like quality control or anything like that. We'll just churn this out to make more money. And that is seriously the perception that I get about the movie industry.
No, you're not wrong. And like, let's keep going because you're not wrong. And that's what the problem with the movies that were coming to movie theaters and staying in movie theaters is that they're making fewer movies. Each production company are making fewer movies. They're funneling most of their funds into like Marvel and DC and Star Wars and all those franchise, and thoughts. They're funneling all that money into and so those are starting to be the only things that are in theaters are like the action movies and then the franchise movies. And it seems like, in my opinion, that the producers are more in charge of the story making in a lot of cases than the actual story makers, because they're like, your movie, I will give you all this money, but your story needs to include this, and this, because that's what was popular from this movie, this movie, this movie, and this movie. So it's like they're looking for a formula to make the perfect movie instead of like trying to do something new. It's reactive instead of like proactive, right?
has that always been the case to an extent though? Like,
I mean, I guess, yeah, but when you look at things like even though Disney is problematic,
Mhm.
when he was alive, it was always about doing something that had never been done before.
Right.
And it was about pushing the limits of what he's able to do and what
Yeah.
and I feel like they still try to keep that in mind, but I mean now they're just acquiring everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that you're right about that. Like Disney it wasn't always just about the money. I know like when Walt Disney was doing Snow White, the first like full-length feature-length animated film, like everybody told him he was nuts. They called it Disney's folly for a long time because they're like, how is this ever going to succeed? And that's what he wanted to do and push it, which is great, but as much as I do enjoy like the Marvel movies and the Avengers movies and stuff like that, it is kind of, you're right, it is really sad that means that smaller films aren't given a budget. Nobody's willing to take a chance on them and put them out there. It seems like you occasionally will get like um someone will give money to someone to make an Oscar bait type movie. You'll get those every now and again, and horror sequels. But again, it's rare for them to be original stuff. It's you're right, a lot of franchise stuff and that.
Yeah,
Even though
definitely.
within the horror, oh, go on.
Sorry, I was just that's why right now is such an interesting time in terms of film because now they don't have access to filmmaking the way that they used to do. So
Mhm.
they're going to have to they have limitations now, so they're going to have to start getting creative about how they're 2021 we'll have movies that were supposed to come out in 2020.
Yeah.
But 2022 that content is not being made. So they're going to be looking for content. They're going to be looking for probably the lower budget stuff and the stuff that like is already made. So filmmakers like start cutting trailers and shit because they're going to be looking for content soon.
It'll be kind of interesting to see how people get creative. While I don't particularly like this film or anything, but have you guys seen Unfriended from a couple of years ago? It was a horror movie shot entirely through some girl's laptop with the various screens on it. I didn't really care for it, but I got to give them credit for doing something wild and completely different. And are we going to start to see more things like that? Maybe not that format, but people trying to find a different format or something that works. I think with a lot of like horror movies, especially, it seems like they're always looking to make the budgets lower, but they get creative with like what they do with them and how they present them. To try to get that return on investment higher.
Sure.
So that'll be kind of fascinating to an extent. I just
It's
hope it's
really
not all
interesting.
crash and burn and terrible CGI and.
Oh God.
Well, I don't think so because I mean they have the technology to do good CGI right now, and they can do the good CGI from home. But it's like at this point, if most of your movie's a cartoon anyway, why don't you just make a cartoon? Like I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think my thoughts are like I'm 3 thoughts ahead already. I was thinking about how like YouTubers are getting different opportunities now because of stuff like this. Like there are a lot of them that are doing reality TV shows now. So that's something. I don't know if it's because they have a smaller like production crew or What?
Well, one thing I'd just like to jump in and interject is I completely agree with you about investing in horror movies. Like if you look at the track record and the history of how successful these movies do compared to their budgets, like so many of them are shot on shoestrings and then have massive returns. Like Friday the 13th, I think John Carpenter's Halloween was for a long time the most successful like independent film ever made, based on the amount of money he shot it for and then what it ended up doing. Even stuff like the Blair Witch Project, which was a massive success, and I don't know, pennies on the dollar they shot that sucker for. Like they bought a camera, some camping equipment, and kids that couldn't act, and sent them into the woods.
Right.
And I love it. It's great. It's great. But yeah, so I completely agree with you, and I think too, Hillary, and I wonder how much of Tenant being underperforming is just based on everything I've seen about that movie in conjunction with the pandemic. Because I think before all the pandemic began, the trailers for Tenet were coming out, and it
Hmm.
like, what is this movie about? I had no idea. I had no desire to see it. Um, so
Well,
maybe
that's
that feeds into it too.
I well. So at the beginning of this year, I was running a movie theater.
Mm,
So we were looking at the year ahead and what was coming out, and it was a dismal looking year for movie theaters anyway,
yeah,
because of what we were talking about with the whole they're not releasing as much. So they're funneling all their money into things that they know they'll make their return on instead of taking chances with
sure.
um, new ideas.
Mm,
I'm speaking in broad strokes, but I don't. I'm. This is generally what they're doing.
sure.
It's not. There are
Yeah.
exceptions. Um, yeah. Every time I try to like add context, I lose my train of thought. Um, so what was I saying? Anybody
You
remember?
were saying that theaters, the outlook for 2020 was dismal at the
Oh
beginning of
yeah.
the year.
So you have to remember that this film was finished. It was finished already.
Mhm.
It was set to come out right as this stuff was starting. This was gonna not do well anyway. Like none of these films were gonna perform very well,
Mhm.
and people were talking it up so much because it was I feel like it was a representation of the like it was the hope of the movie theater and the experience returning to normal and all of this, and they were willing to put this film out there because, well, I won't go into all of it because I don't want to get too much hate from Christopher Nolan fans, but they they were willing to put it be that tent pole because they got so much publicity for
Mm,
this movie because they kept pushing it. It was always in the news, even like if people weren't paying attention necessarily too like focused on it too much, you at least heard about it because it was always being talked about. Um, but also the thing is they needed to make almost $1 billion to make a return on that movie
wow.
because of pushing it for as long as they did. So it's I don't know. It's really, when you think about it in those terms, dropping it on streaming makes more sense because you're getting your money now,
Yeah.
and waiting for movie theaters to hopefully be safe again when people are predicting that this is not going to go Things are not going to be safe for a little while.
Yeah.
It's not a smart business move.
I go on, Heather.
Well, I think a couple things. Hopefully, I can hang on to both of them. Is to like to your point that even people who are not really paying attention, they heard about Tenet. Like, I do not pay attention, and I heard about it, and like I even remember reading an article or reading an interview with one of the actors. I think it was the main actor. They were asking him what the movie was about, and he couldn't tell them. And they were speculating at the time, they're like, is he trying to be cagey, or does he actually not know what this movie is about? So, like, if that was what they had going in, wow. And then... Shoot, I wasn't able to hold on to both of them. What was it?
It's catching.
Like you were saying, that the Tenet having to make... Oh, that was it! I got it! So, the other thing was, I don't see how the movie industry comes off looking good in a situation like this, where they push the movie to release it to theaters as opposed to streaming, where when they had all this hype, when, as you say, they would have to make $1 billion to make a return on their investment, and they're pushing it into theaters when people are saying it's not safe, when people in the industry have been saying all along it's not safe, or at least that they can't necessarily guarantee the safety. It just comes across like all the movie industry cares about is money. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't see how they can spin it where that's any other way. They come across in any other way. Like, if they had waited until things were definitely in a much safer position, whatever that means, and they said, okay, now, things are definitely opening up. There isn't a fear that we're going to have to close things down again. We are on... Oh.
Hey!
That was quick.
Keep going. Just keep going. Don't lose momentum. Keep going.
Colin will return in just a few minutes. But... that they could come back with this, yay, we're on the road to recovery, this is how we're going to celebrate, this is how we're bringing people back to the theaters, this is how we're getting people out of their homes. I could see how they could spin it that way at that time, however far in the future that would be. But right now, it just seems that all they look like is they're money hungry. That's all it looks like from where I am sitting. So I don't know what you guys think, if you have a different take on it, but like that's what it looks like to me.
Well, yeah, they handled this very poorly because they were praying that things would go back to normal. And they're not going to, at least not for a while, in terms of what they assume is normal. And maybe it never will go back to the way that it was normal for them. The problem is that instead of like actually coming up with a plan of how to deal with this situation, they have just been waiting. I want to say it was Cinemark, spent this whole time renovating one of their huge theaters. They put in a yogurt stand, they put in like a bar and a restaurant and stuff like that. And they're talking about reopening, and it's not like that's not getting, like, they didn't spend any money keeping even for safety measures. It was just additions to their already ridiculous concession stand.
Yeah.
I really do feel like the theaters that survive are the ones that can afford to stay closed right now. I think that the distributors are in a difficult position. It seems like they don't want to. They make more money at box office than they would streaming, at least until they figure out how to stream properly, to how to charge people. So they're holding out for that, but it really doesn't make sense for them to keep holding on to these movies, except that they're banking on things going back to normal and that they'll make a lot of money that people will want to come back to theaters, and they will. But the question is it smarter to just drop it on streaming, bypass the theater? Because, to be honest, it probably won't be safe to go back to theaters until at earliest next summer. That's what people are saying. And it, like, I don't know where that is even coming from, because nobody's talking about a cure yet.
Yeah.
So,
and
I don't know.
I kind of want to for our listeners, to just sort of reiterate kind of where Hilary's coming from, because you have spent I want to underline this, 17 years working in various movie theaters as in various positions. Like, how long did you manage your own movie theater? Like, this is not just coming from, I feel like it's different, whereas if I were talking about, I'm an ethnomusicologist, I knew nothing about the movie theater industry. My sister, on the other hand, very long time in the business, she knows what she's talking about. So one question that I had is, what would you see as positive things that movie theaters could be doing, could be focusing on, either right now for the ones that are opening, or for in future when they do open?
I mean, right now, I feel like they need to focus on maintaining the building while it's closed and the equipment while it's closed, so that they can be prepared for when they can open again. Unfortunately, and I don't have like easy solutions for people. I ran my independent movie theater for 7 years. I worked there for 8 years. I was management for 3 other movie theaters, and I worked at a total of 7 movie theaters over the course of 17 years. So that is my experience level in this. But the way that I see it, and it's already started happening, is AMC made a deal with, I believe it's Universal, they're getting cut in on streaming profit. So like Universal is going to like start allowing their first run movies to drop on like Prime or whatever, and when they do that, people have to rent them for like $20 or $30.
Yeah.
And AMC will start getting a cut of that profit, so that they will be able to survive this whole thing. And in return, I don't know if this is this is like super nerdy theater statistics, but in return, the window that things are required to stay in theaters is shortened from, so like, remember when you were a kid and The Grinch was in theaters for like 3 or 4 months, and then the DVD didn't come out until a year later. That one of the reasons is because the distributors had a deal with the movie theaters where they couldn't release it on DVD until a certain amount of time so that movie theaters could wring as much profit out of that movie as possible.
Yeah.
So AMC is being cut into Universal's streaming amount profits. In return, they agreed to cut the movie window, the theater window for when things do return to normal from like 3 months to I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh wow.
So yeah, instead of like having to wait to see your movie at home, however many months it takes for them to release it, you can just wait 2 weeks and you'll be able to stream it. It's so that in itself has changed the game. Period. They open that door and they can't close it for anybody. So AMC did it, but all the other movie chains are going to have to figure that out too, because people aren't going to go and pay $30 just for tickets when it's already streaming.
Yeah.
And you can stay home.
That brings that to me brings up an interesting idea. I felt like for the past few years especially, but maybe it's always been this way to an extent, but it feels like movies haven't been the big pictures, I guess we'll say, haven't been sold on their own merits, but more on that like that cultural capital that you have to see it like opening day as soon as possible so you can join in the conversation about, oh, what happened in the new Star Wars movie or the new Avengers movie or whatever it is. It's like get to see it as soon as possible, and the only way to do that is at a theater. I wonder if now that's going to be more pronounced with the windows of the opportunity to see it being shortened. Like I get what you're saying about how, Hilary, how why pay $30 for 2 tickets when you can, stream the movie for $30 if you just wait 2 weeks. And like, that sounds great for me. I'll wait a month or, whatever. But I think for a lot of people, that doesn't necessarily matter, like.
Sure. No, and I think it's also because with the rise in social media and stuff, people will get the twists spoiled for them if they don't see it within the opening weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess it really just depends on what matters to you. It doesn't matter to me. So
and
I will wait.
Yeah, I think it's actually more on the side of the movie theaters and the effect that it will have on the movie theaters. Right? It's not so much affecting the general public. It might even in a way benefit the general public, because it might mean then that the movie, if they didn't catch it in the theater, they can see it faster on Netflix or Disney Plus or just on DVD. But
and also, like, if you have 5 kids and you want to come see a movie, like, even at our theater, which was cheaper than any other theater in the area, if it was 5 kids and a parent at matinee prices, that would still be $36 just to get in. And then everybody would want snacks, and concessions is more expensive than the tickets. So like, if you're spending $50 to $100 already to go to a movie when you could watch it at home, it's just easier, especially if you're trying to wrangle 5 kids to go out somewhere. Like, logistically, all of this makes sense the way that it's going. And I'm not saying that I'm happy about it, and I'm not saying that I want theaters to die, because but I really don't believe they are going to die. I believe that they need to close for a little while so that we can make sure that everybody's safe.
Yeah.
But I believe that there will be a revival because there is a romanticism about the theater, and people want that experience, and they enjoy, even though it can be really annoying sometimes to watch a movie with the general public, sometimes it's a lot of fun. And so that will come back. It's just going to take a minute, and it's a little frustrating to just have to watch all of these people pretend that it's safe and pretend that they're thinking about people's lives over money when it is so obviously all about money for them.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Do you think that creative before they open, like, is there going to be such a thing as a return to normal, or are the theaters that are going to survive the ones that are going to have to make their own new normal to an extent?
Oh no, they'll have to make their new normal because unfortunately with this AMC deal, this is gonna screw over independent theater, movie theaters a lot, because they're less likely to be able to make a deal with Universal, because there's only like one of them, as opposed to the chains. I think if they're smart, I think that it would be, they need to make it more of an event again. You know, it's going to the theater used to be something that you did maybe once or twice a year. It would be like going out, you'd get dressed up, like the employees would be wearing tuxedos almost with bow ties and stuff, and now it's kind of become more of a common thing that people are able to do, and that's not a bad thing. But you know, the way that people go to plays now, or they did and will again, I think will be movie theaters. And so they need to come up with something that is they can offer that is appealing to people. Like this whole 3D movies, they kept insisting that 3D was the next big thing and shoving it down our throats. And half the people at my theater, we would do less business on 3D movies. Even if it was a Marvel movie, we would do less business on 3D movies than we would on the regular ones, because half of the people don't want that. They need, putting bars in theaters is a good idea, as long as you have security. I think that like downsizing and only having like one or two screens and then making it like a dinner theater where people are more spaced out, have places to be comfortable and eat, because theaters make their money from the food anyway.
Yeah.
Do things like that.
We had a theater like that when I was a teenager that I went to once or twice. I think I saw American Pie 2 there, but you like place your dinner order, you sit at like little round tables, and the waiters bring out food and drinks for you it was great. And I really like that. So I think you're definitely right there. I think when theaters become an event again, like, because as they are now, it's like you go to the theater to see a movie. You can do that at home on your, 85-inch television, whatever. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It needs to be like kind of like in the 30s, you'd go and you'd see a newsreel and cartoons and whatever else. Like maybe not exactly that, but that event kind of a thing. Like it's not just that we're going to see a movie. It's we're going to
the picture show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like to your point, Colin, like I think that would be amazing. I do not know if it would be financially feasible anymore. But like the idea that back in the day you could go to the movies and watch the same movie, like you could stay there all day. You could watch the movie 5 times. Like that, when I first heard about that as a kid, that blew my mind. And like if there was a way for movie theaters to capitalize on that again, like I say, I do not know if that's financially feasible at this point, but like if you could do it,
I don't see.
And like you went for the movie. But like
she's drinking.
You can go. But like if you could tie into that idea of it being an event where people stay for lunch, or they stay for lunch and dinner. Like you can only sneak so much food into a movie theater. So if you're planning
There's no limit.
But like if you're planning on staying all day, eventually you're going to run out of the food that you snuck in, so you'll buy some more food while you're there. And like as long as there was a way, like you were saying, Hill, if they put in bars, like you would need more security, you would need more like bouncers probably to make sure that people don't get too riled up. But if you could make that part of it and be like, okay, that screen is the one where we send all the drunk people. This screen is where we keep, everybody who's only had a few. But if they could plan it that way and change the idea of movies have become, because so many people go to the movies to see the previews. If they could turn that into like it used to be, you went to see a cartoon, you saw the newsreel, you saw other things. Like if they could do other things with that and turn it into something that instead of you go and you see one movie, turn it into an all-day event. It's something new. I mean, it's new in the sense that we haven't experienced that type of thing in our lifetime with the movies. It's an older idea, but it's something reimagining what going to the movies could be.
I have to say, when my wife and I were going to see movies before all of this, they just put in the luxury seating at our local theater. They almost like leather love seats with the recliners, and like that was amazing. And once I did that, I never wanted to like some peasant to go to sit in like the regular seats ever again. And it would be so great if they kept on that and they made it like a luxury experience. You get your recliner. Maybe there's an on-site restaurant that you can have a drink or like a cocktail and get a meal at either before or after that's like included in your ticket price, maybe. Or even like when you go see a play and they have an intermission and everybody goes to mingle at like the drink stand or whatever. I definitely think the experience part of it would be something to sell to help get people back into theater seats, as opposed to just like, I'll wait a week till it's streaming, or whatever it is. And I definitely think then that the idea of what movies are in the theater needs to alter to an extent, because before it was like if you made a film, it went into theaters, or it was like straight to DVD or whatever. And I think those lines need to be a little more demarcated, like only the best, most grandiose movies are in like the theaters, and then there's maybe a lot more stuff that's just made for streaming, for home viewing, for purchase, and not like you mentioned the Grinch, Hilary, which should, I think, never have been in theaters. That's one of the few movies I fell asleep at in the theater.
Wait, so, which Grinch? Which Grinch?
Oh, the Jim Carrey Grinch.
Okay. All right.
Not the Boris.
I love that one.
You like the Jim Carrey one?
Yes.
My whole family went, which was rare for us to all go to the movies together. And I remember he was like the big climactic where he's on skis at the end or something. I like passed out. I could not deal with it.
I love
For
it.
you guys watching at home, the Jim Carrey Grinch is going to be our Christmas spectacular. I'm planning it out already. It's going to be great.
Not if you fall asleep again.
Oh, I'm gonna right in the middle of the cast. You guys will be talking. I'll just like head back. But I would love to hear why you love it at a different point in time. And I love that you love it, because if there's one thing I like, it's people like sticking up for movies that otherwise are considered bad or whatever. So like I'd love to have that discussion with you at some point. Like I think that would be a blast.
I didn't know it was considered bad.
Really? Oh man. Maybe
No, I love it. The Cat in the Hat, that's another story, but the Grinch.
Fair enough.
Grinch
fair
was
enough.
great. Grinch was great. Great film.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, I really do hope that when things start to become safer, truly safer, that whatever's going to happen with the film industry and movie theaters is a positive. I hope that it helps, provide jobs for people in whatever capacity, but also provide the art that we all go to see. Like, I don't go to the movies because I know that X number of people worked on the film and I'm supporting their livelihood. Like, I go for the artistic aspects of it.
Yeah.
So I hope it's all good what happens. If I may ask, what do you guys think about drive-in movie theaters?
I think that that's probably the way to go right now for movie theaters to survive.
Mm-hmm.
They just have to figure out the concession issue.
Well, yeah. Because you just bring your own food. Like, problem solved.
Yeah.
Then they'd have to start charging like $20 to let people in.
Right, right. I was only thinking of it from the consumer point of view.
Yeah.
But I have always been enchanted by the idea of drive-in movie theaters. I don't think I've ever been to one, unless like mom and dad brought us to one maybe when we were little. I don't think I've ever been to one. But the whole idea of watching a movie outside in your car, but with other people. So it's like you have like maybe your family or your friends in the car, so you can be talking and chatting or telling each other to shut up, that kind of thing. But it's just you don't have to worry about other people yelling or making noise or anything like that. You do kind of...
She's frozen again.
Oh, damn.
Well, Hilary, I guess it's up to us to make this show awesome for the end.
I guess so. We must sally forth. Oh.
Am I back?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I never froze on my side, so I don't know what happened. Did I go like robotic or anything like that?
No, you were like
You just froze.
Oh, okay.
Frozen, just like it was good.
Fantastic. But yeah, so the upshot was that I think drive-in movie theaters or drive-in movies are awesome, and I wish that they had become more of a thing than they seem to. Like I feel like I heard about drive-in movie theater, like drive-in movies doing business like during the summer and stuff. But I didn't hear a whole lot about it, which kind of surprised me because I feel like that's the answer, right? Like right now, simple solution while the weather holds. That would be.
We're moving away from drive-ins though, so I don't think that there were a whole lot of screens for them to do it on. Like they when a couple summers ago they used to do like watch a movie in the park, and they would have inflatable movie screens. So I don't know if they were doing that, but those screens weren't as big as a drive-in screen.
Yeah.
I don't know what it takes to really maintain something like that.
That's true.
Drive-ins take up a lot of real estate too. Like to get as many cars in as they do, you're talking like acreage as opposed to putting a building on a couple hundred square feet, you know?
I know what we can use golf courses for.
Yeah.
I don't think it's golf.
Well, no. Why? Let's just put a drive-in movie theater on a couple of the nation's golf courses. Why do we need all of them?
Agreed.
I think that's the perfect solution.
Have you guys seen the movie Dead End Drive-In by chance? It's an Australian film. It's about this kind of like punk kid in like a near future, and he's at the drive-in, and I think he gets his like tire stolen or whatever. Basically, there's this massive curfew in this totalitarian state, so they can't leave. So all these kids are trapped at the drive-in, and they keep playing movies constantly and feeding them like concession foods, and all of the other like teens are like loving it. You know what I mean? And he's like trying to get out. So in the morning, he goes jogging. Everybody thinks he's nuts. He's trying to like maintain his physical shape, and he's like, "I'm gonna get out of here and bust out." It's like a drive-in prison. It's pretty cool. Definitely worth checking out.
Nice.
So, looking at the time, is there any other final thoughts you guys have about the movie industry before we get into our trivia and recommendations?
Not particularly. Like I was saying, I would just say, like, people stay safe, make good decisions. If a movie theater is opening, near you, do you really need to go? Like at this point, I just say think about it and really make good decisions to keep everybody safe.
There's a risk involved with anything, so get as much information as you can about what your theater's safety and health practices are, et cetera, and you're right, make good decisions based on that. So perfect. All right, well, do we want to get into our recommendations of the week then?
Yeah.
All right, we'll start up at the top. Heather, since you're on my screen all the way up, you're first.
Okay. My recommendation for this week is a book called The Historian, and I know that everything shows up backwards on my screen. I will try and figure out how to make it not do that. It's called The Historian. It's by Elizabeth Kostova. Was published in 2005, and it is a vampire book. It is basically the most academic, nerdy vampire book you could ever hope to find. I haven't read all the vampire books that are out there, so maybe there are others. But basically, it's split. It's split in a way that I like stories, because you have the sort of main story that's happening in the present, and then you have the story of the protagonist's father that happens in the past. And it's basically the father was a historian, he was a PhD student, and discovers the various things suggesting that vampires exist and that Dracula is around. And so it's him and this other graduate student basically going to various countries in Eastern Europe trying to hunt these things down. It's interestingly political because of when the father's story is set. I think it was in the 50s. So you have the Cold War going on and various other things happening in Eastern Europe, like between Eastern Europe and the United States, so that plays into it. But it's a really fascinating book that I'll read and I'll be like, huh. And then I'll go away from it for like years, and then I'll come back to it, and it's very cool. I very much recommend it.
Sounds great. Is the main character a vampire, or is it about other vampires, or is that a spoiler?
I will stay away from the spoiler. The main character is not a vampire.
Okay.
And what's interesting in this particular lore, how they set it up, is that if you are bitten 3 times by a vampire, you become a vampire.
Oh.
So it's not that the vampire has to kill you. It's not that it's just one bite and you're done. It's very specifically you have to be bitten 3 times. So that ties into sort of the drama and the excitement of the story. But the main character herself, she actually writes it when it's in the present with the main character. She's actually a child. She's like, she grows up a little bit through the story, but I think the oldest she gets is like maybe 15 in her present. But it's not really like young adult fiction, even though the main character is younger. And when her father is, back in the past, he's a graduate student, so he's probably his early 20s. But it's not really young adult. I don't think young adult readers would dislike it, but it's a little bit heavier than young adult fiction, but very good.
Cool. Well, that sounds great to me. Hilary, how about your pick of the week?
Well, in contrast, how many pages is that?
It is
a lot.
816.
In contrast, I decided on a book that I really liked as a child. This is about Dory the Witch, and this one specifically creeped me out. This is her and her cat Gink, and she is a witch with a crooked hat and her socks don't match. And her mom is like the Grand High Witch, except she's a good person. And they got an important thing going on in this particular story. It's a series of stories, so that's lucky. But what scared me about this is that Dory normally looks like that, but then she had to put on this costume to look like this. And then she falls in a lake because she's not very good at riding a broom. And she can't get the mask off. So that always terrified me as a child. So if you want to know the ending, there's a lot going on in this story. Like, that's the B plot. That's not even the A plot. Wait, maybe it is the A plot. It might not be the B plot. Either way, there's more going on in this story that you'll have to read it to find out.
Now, is that part of a series, or is that the only Dory witch book?
No, it's a series, but it is a standalone story, so you won't need, there's no cliffhanger or anything. You'll get a resolution.
That's awesome, though. That's great. I love it. I love, especially Halloween themed, kids books like that. I'm a big fan. They're just so much fun. Even if you're just thumbing through, looking at the art and stuff. I always love that.
Absolutely.
About,
yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I got it, because I don't think we ever had a copy of it. It was always at the library, and so I ordered this on eBay.
Nice.
But I love the artwork. And I love that she uses limited color, just blue and orange. And I think I just like it.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
How about you?
It's my turn, right? All right. I have chosen my pick of the week is because I keep the Halloween spirit all year round. I've picked Monsters Crash the Pajama Party. Do you guys know anything about this? So this DVD is kind of a grab bag throwback to old midnight horror spook shows where they'd have You go to the theater at midnight. They'd have like people in monster masks walking around in the crowd. They'd show movies, live stage shows, all kind of craziness. And what's really fun about this is after you pop in the DVD, there's no menu. It just starts, and there is one of those big hypnotic scrolling things, and they talk to you. You're being hypnotized. Soon you'll be in our power, and then it just dumps you right onto a like a cartoony view of a cemetery. Nothing is labeled. You have to use your cursor on your remote to flip around and see what things you can click on. Like maybe you can click on the cat or the bat, and you never know what's going to pop up. It might be like homemade like Super 8 movies from the 50s of people in vampire masks in a cemetery. It could be like radio spots, like a horror spooky radio thing. It could be a poster gallery from old spook shows. An entire movie is on here. The movie Tormented from 1960 is just randomly one of the things you can select.
Nice.
So it's great. It's like a grab bag. Nothing's labeled. You never know what's going to happen, and it's a ton of fun to just pop in and like. I don't know if I've even seen everything that's on here. There's a short movie where a dude is at a drive-in movie theater with his date, and after getting concessions, turns into a werewolf, and then he assaults her. It's about 10 minutes. That's it. There's really no resolution. He just turns into a werewolf and attacks his girlfriend. It's great. So Monsters Crash the Pajama Party, put out by Something Weird Video. Highly recommended. So very cool.
Nice.
Awesome.
So that is my pick for the week.
Fantastic.
I love it. I love it. So are you guys ready for trivia?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've scoured the internet for Stephen King trivia. I made these up. So let's see what we can do. This is about books and movies to an extent. So 10 questions. So the first question for you guys is based on The Shining. So here we go. What is the name of the ballroom where Jack finally has his drinks at?
Oh no! I don't remember.
I remember it
I'm gonna
having a name.
hate myself.
Oh.
Tell us.
I'll give you guys one hint. It is named after a color.
Don't tell me it was the red room.
Gold.
Oh, no.
That's a little too on the nose.
Is it gold?
Hilary for the point. It is the gold room.
That's what I was gonna say, but then I was like, oh, I don't remember.
You can't second
Right.
guess.
if is it weird that I know what the carpet in Danny's room is, but I don't know the name of the ballroom?
This is why these are trivia questions, and there's no easy answer for what is the name of the pattern of the carpet in the hallway. Question 2. Based on the 1989 film Pet Sematary, who wrote and performed the theme song?
I don't think
I'll give you.
We'll say John Carpenter.
No, that would be awesome though, but it wasn't. I'll give you a hint. It is performed by a punk band. All right, time's up.
Blink 182.
No.
Backstreet
In
Boys.
1989, Blink 182 were still like in utero, I think. So. That would be the Ramones. I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery.
I got you.
I was not
Okay.
coming up with that.
Did you read that one, Heath?
Oh yes.
Did he have any? Stephen King often has songs that he mentions in his books. Did he mention any songs in that one? Do you remember?
I don't. Like, there are a couple of times when there's like a character driving in a car, and I could definitely see him like talking about him turning the radio on and like jamming out, but I don't remember any in particular. I'll have to go back now.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Next question. Which film adaptation of his own work did Stephen King direct?
Maximum Overdrive.
That one!
Hilary.
That one!
Hilary.
Except he didn't.
Well, he
He
directed.
tried.
Yeah. Okay. Christine, can you give me the make, model, and year of what car Christine is?
Nope.
No?
No.
She is a 1958 Plymouth Fury.
Okay. I mean, that kind of makes
Beautiful.
sense.
Beautiful car.
If we sat here for like about 10 minutes, I could probably have come up with the year.
Okay.
But
I never even saw the movie.
no, I didn't see the movie either.
Oh, okay. John Carpenter film. So it's okay. Who directed the 1976 film Carrie?
Oh, I do not know that one.
I don't know that one either.
Brian De Palma.
Oh.
Do you know what else he did?
Body Double.
I see.
I know the name, but I am...
Body Double. The Phantom of the Paradise, I believe, De Palma directed, which is awesome. If you guys haven't seen Phantom of the Paradise.
Is that the one where Freddy Krueger is like Phantom of the Opera?
No, that's Phantom of the Opera from 1980 or 1990 something. Phantom of the Paradise is like Phantom of the Opera, but it's this weird coked out 70s rock opera version. It's bananas and it's wonderful.
He did The Untouchables
Yes.
and Black Dahlia.
Okay.
Okay.
What is
Gotcha.
that? Carrie was the first of King's film or works to be adapted to the screen. What is the second work to ever be adapted to film or television?
Was it Salem's Lot?
Heather for the point. Nice work. 1979 miniseries. Okay, It.
Well done.
How often does Pennywise return to feed?
Every 27 to 28 years.
Heather for the point. Okay. What 1985 film is based on the Stephen King book Cycle of the Werewolf?
Silver Bullet.
Correctamundo.
Yeah. I didn't look that up. I didn't look it up. I knew that one.
That was good. That was good. Cycle of the Werewolf. Which famous comic book artist provided the illustrations for the book?
Oh,
I do not know that one.
I don't know that either.
Okay, that would be one of my personal favorite artists, Bernie Wrightson. Very famous comic book artist. Helped to initially create Swamp Thing. Too numerous to list. Amazing artist, but King got him. He perfectly captures that like EC spirit, which I know Stephen King is a fan of.
That is cool.
For that. And then finally, our last question, Children of the Corn. What is the name of the enigmatic entity that the children of Gatlin, Nebraska worship?
He who walks behind the rose.
Heather for the point. Nice job. So
See?
we've got...
Ask me this. Ask me the pattern of the carpet in Danny's room. Don't ask me practical knowledge questions like who direct... Oh.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
He's back.
What is the name of the pattern of the carpet in Danny's room?
Okay, so I don't know the actual name of the pattern itself, but it's got like like cactuses on it and little like cowboy things. He really likes it. But now that I'm thinking that and I'm like being like, oh, woohoo, ask me this, I'm not sure if it's the pattern of the carpet or the wallpaper. So if anybody was going to comment on that, it might be the wallpaper.
Well, you guys are somehow on the Stephen King quiz dead even with 3 points each. So nice job. But that was fun. All right. Well, any closing thoughts or remarks anybody has before we finish the episode up?
I don't think so. Just everybody stay safe.
Sounds good.
And
so, yeah. Go ahead, Heather.
And let us know, like, what movies you're watching, how you are consuming movies at home. Like, if you're doing just normal stuff, kind of watching on like laptops or TVs. If you've rigged up your own projection system and you're doing your own kind of like drive-in movies at home on the wall, let us know how you're doing movie wise.
That's great. So for Zombie Banana Spiders, stay safe. I'm Colin. You can find me at Colin Richards Art on Instagram or Markers and Monsters on YouTube. Heather?
You will never find me.
And Hilary?
I'm at Horalius _art on Instagram.
I love it. Well, this was great, you guys. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us on the cast. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.